In today's world, it's never been easier to sell art online, but with so many options out there, from marketplaces to mass production, most of it ends up looking the same. Beach House Art is different, a modern, coastal-inspired wall art brand with originality, style, and substance. The problem? They were trying to grow a creative brand while managing a scattered marketing setup. Paid media over here, content over there, different people doing different things. No real strategy pulling it all together. It was using up their time, draining their energy, and stopping them from scaling. This is the story of how we helped them bring everything under one roof and finally start growing with confidence. From the outside, Beach House Art had everything, but like so many growing brands, their marketing was fragmented. Different channels running in isolation, messages getting lost, and no clear strategy pulling it all together. They weren't lacking effort, they were lacking focus, and that's where we came in. First conversation I had with Beach House Art was one where I said, what do you want to be famous for? I said, you've got a beautiful range of products here, but fundamentally, it's printed art. Some framed, some unframed. So what is it? Why does someone come to you? And I remember having that conversation with Sam and Sarah. I said, why would someone come to you and not your competitors? That took a little bit of ironing out to figure out, okay, well actually these are our most popular styles and types of print. And once we nailed that down, we then could really build on that and look at it, okay, how do we really carve out our niche within a niche?
When Beach House Art joined us, from a meta perspective, the campaigns were quite scattered. So it was really difficult for us to kind of understand what was going on in the account because there was no clear segmentation across audiences or products. There was a mix of different objectives in the account. So it was evident that there wasn't a clear strategy in terms of bringing somebody in that doesn't know who Beach House Art is and then moving them through closer to purchase. So we wanted to obviously change that and rebuild the account from the ground up, essentially, not only to benefit us and reporting so that we could really understand what was happening in the account. When you've got a clean structure, it's way easier to understand the data, optimize the account and improve on those results. But it was really important for us to map out the funnel, so the buyer journey, and then within that, what creatives are we going to use where? What creatives and messaging are we going to use at the upper funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, in order to kind of align all of that with where that buyer is in their journey.
It was a single search campaign, just brand, and a PMax campaign. But I think it was a lot of reliance on Performance Max to do absolutely everything that needed to be done. And it wasn't reliably doing that. Seasonality was throwing it for a spin, things like that. It's just, it's asking everything of one tool is, tough.
What we liked about Evergreen is that they bring all three channels together. So it's the creative, the Meta and Google. So that was really sort of something that we thought was a challenge before. There's sort of the disconnect quite often when you go, we had a previous agency that sort of Google didn't speak to Meta and Meta didn't speak to Google. And what we really like is when we speak to sort of Chris and Matt is that they both handle different sides, but they're on the call together. And so we get sort of a cohesive strategy.
Yeah, I think with our previous agency, there were very much different departments and they were in different locations, which made it even more kind of, and it shouldn't, but it really did. And just having those two different strategies, and we were very much of the mind that it needs to be, we thought with our limited knowledge, it needs to be a holistic approach to paid. So it was really important to get it under one umbrella, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it just makes it easier sort of making strategic.
And for us, it's not, we're only spending that one time kind of speaking to a team rather than here's all the Google stuff, now let's take what we've learned from them and tell the Meta person and then get that. And it's like, we don't want to be that in between. We want that to come together for us.
The first step was clarity. We helped the team define their core product ranges, align their messaging, and build a strategy that could scale. When we first got access to Beach House's ad accounts, we looked at the data, it became very clear they were barely getting a 2 ROAS. So for every pound they were putting in, they were barely doubling it to £2. That made the business model and certainly profitability very, very difficult. We looked at, okay, why is that happening? And fundamentally, there were some things that were going wrong. They weren't clear on what exactly they wanted to be famous for, what they wanted to put front and center in terms of their product range. It was a case of going after all products, which we know is very, very difficult. Then beyond that, there was a disjointed connection between what search and what social was doing. We were sending different messages to different audiences, and that lack of consistency, cohesion, just meant that the customers would see this ad and then they'd see this product, but there was no central theme to the messaging, which just made things really, really difficult, really inconsistent. And it just meant that as a business, they were just getting enough sales to make it worthwhile doing, but weren't really making profitability. And they were essentially just turning a quid. They were just, putting money in, making enough money so they would keep doing the ads, but it wasn't really working for them. So we looked at all of this, and crucially, one of the big things we did is we identified some quick wins, as we always try and do. So that first audit in those first few weeks is so important. And some of the things that came out of that were that we realized they weren't using their first party data. So that is their email database, all of their previous customers, the people that, look, if you buy a print for your home, it's very likely you might buy a second and a third and a fourth print if it's a brand that you trust, you like the style. So we said, well, look, why aren't we leveraging that data and putting your products back in front of people that already know you, they already love you, they've bought from you before? So that was a big thing that we did.
So we changed at the sort of just before Black Friday. Which was an insane, stupid thing to do, but actually
we needed to.
And it was a real success, so it was great. But it was kind of daunting. But then, we got a really comprehensive plan, which was great, and we were really involved in that process, so it worked.
And I think strategy is quite important for us, and that's a big part of, we've done a big piece of work with Evergreen as to kind of building out a strategy, not just for what does creative look like and how does the brand come across, but how are we hitting every kind of level of the funnel going through? What does the buyer journey look like? How is Meta informing Google and vice versa? What is that user journey, and how can we appeal to these customers at every part of their journey? And that's been a really important piece of work that Evergreen have also sort of been through with us. It's helped us all to sort of really inform our decisions and our plans. So constant strategic work is really important.
Sam and I were backwards and forwards constantly talking about the tracking, the company that Analysify that they used to implement tracking on their Shopify platform. So I was always in the loop with what was going on, what was being tested. Additionally, it's just the relationship with Sam's been really collaborative in terms of picking out products to focus on and things like that. So it was really helpful to just know what was going on for a start, let alone getting it all fixed.
When we launched our strategy, we wanted to clearly define the funnel. So that was introducing the brand at the top of the funnel. So using unique coastal aesthetics to new audiences, kind of going for that sort of luxury lifestyle angle. And then as they move through the funnel, building trust, so including messaging around sort of reviews, social proof, testimonials, but also these guys do a lot of work with PR as well, and they feature in magazines, so highlighting that in the ads as well. And then as we get to the bottom of the funnel, highlighting any offers that may be live right now, alongside then dynamic product ads that show the exact product that people have engaged with on the website. And typically that has what's worked really well. From a testing perspective, we look at a mix of creatives across static images, video, carousel, dynamic product ads, and also UGC content, which worked really well for these guys. We typically find that the message and the hook that works the best is when we show the product off in a very lifestyle setting in the first 3 seconds, but also from a verbal hook perspective, really highlight what it is. Because I think with it being an interior, when you're using lifestyle shots, is it the sideboard in the video? What actually is it that we're trying to sell? So ensuring that we get that kind of coastal artwork messaging right at the beginning is what's worked really well for these guys.
Beach House Art have got a lot of products. There's a lot of SKUs and in a lot of different variants, different sizes, framed, unframed, colours of frames. There's a lot in there to unpack, and you can't just prioritize everything. So naturally, we went after the sizes that they sell most often and want to sell most often, and like the core product ranges that that were worth focusing on, the things that they know do well, the things they know attract attention, that will stop people in their tracks and go, I like that, let me have a look.
I think consistency is the big thing. So what happened previously was we would have ups and downs, and we'd be like, why isn't it consistent? And I think that's what we found now, is that we've got sort of a good level of consistency going forward. So, and that means that you can then build on it, or sort of scale a bit, or you're in a sort of like an even keel as a company, rather than sort of having a brilliant month and then it being terrible. This is sort of, we're on sort of a upward trajectory, but it's stable, which is great.
It's really important.
As a company, you know where you stand.
Because those peaks and troughs, when you run your own business, that's a constant worry. You're either on a high thinking, great, this is it, we finally cracked it. What is that magic sauce? Where does that come from? And then the next month it's kind of tailed off again. So achieving that.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about scaling, and you think it's going to happen quite quickly, but you really have to scale from a consistent base level and understand what's going on.
And understand why something's worked, and then review that and
do more of it.
Yeah.
We ended up restructuring most of the ad accounts that we saw, particularly in Google, because we just looked at that and thought, do you know what, this is just not set up for success. So we had to restructure it, and some of the efficiencies that we did, not only was it the first party data and a lot of audience work in terms of really refining who is the customer, who is buying this product, but in addition to that, what we did is we applied some scripts within their campaign, which essentially are bits of code that you can apply to the ad account to really make the account work more effectively, more efficiently. You can reduce wastage, you can ensure that the right people are seeing your ads. And all of that is just baked in that first audit to ensure that the foundations are in place and we're set up for success as we push the brand on and start to really grow. With a joined up strategy in place, it was time to elevate the creative. Beach House Art already had a strong brand identity and beautiful assets. They just needed a way to turn that into performance. The great thing about working with a brand like Beach House Art is they're creatives. They get it. They are creative. It's a beautiful product. It's a product that, get in front of the right customer, it sells itself. And so one of the great things from a creative standpoint that we saw was we could leverage all of their existing assets. So they had video, they had great photography, and we could take all of that and weave into the ads that we needed to create. And of course, we can just sprinkle on our creativity and our magic to just take things to the next level. But it's really good when you've got a brand that already has a suite of assets, they already know what looks good, they already know their brand identity. When you've got that, you've got so many of the core components that you need, that then when you bring an agency in, when you bring that additional layer of creativity into things, that's where it gets really exciting and we can just take things to the next level.
In terms of that upper funnel brand awareness piece, and what we do is we sort of launch, say, an upper funnel piece of creative, say UGC, to kind of bring the brand to life and highlight the brand. As part of our testing framework, we will then see how that can then work further down the funnel with tweaks to the messaging. We've played a part in that by helping them with scripting. And also editing. So a lot of the creator content and UGC content, we have then taken that and used it as B-roll in different ways. And, the creative team have supported in that way. We've restructured script. We've taken a hook from one UGC video and added it to another. And, we look at that data, what is the hook rate? What is the hold rate? And we kind of optimize and edit our creatives to align with that. What also works really well for Beach House Art from a creative perspective is just very aspirational, luxury felt interior images. And we've been on a bit of a journey with those guys on that, and we've kind of iterated on that from when we first launched and through a lot of testing. And we're now in a really great place where we take an aspirational setting, a lifestyle setting, and we bring in their best sellers. And typically that's what we see work really well from an image perspective. And then that lower funnel where we are presenting a very direct call to action or offer, for example, again, image ads with a really clear overlay and call out typically works really well for that.
There's a lot of creative going on in paid search, especially these days. However, I do find that there's a lot of insight to be drawn from other tools. I rely on our team at the paid social team to deliver me a lot of insight on creative so I can take shortcuts. And likewise, Sam had been running some ads on Pinterest. So we took his learnings from there, threw that into a Performance Max asset group to test against the existing creative, and it's been really interesting. So it's not converted as well, but it does really well in terms of like getting impressions and clicks. It's a really good traffic driver, so sort of that upper to mid funnel activity. What it's done is give me some guidance on what I can do to hit the upper funnel. It's influenced my choices for our demand gen campaign. So yeah, I think it's allowed me to use testing that isn't geared specifically towards just what does drive conversions. I think messaging's a tricky one. There is a difference in messaging between what we're using at the upper and mid funnel and the bottom funnel. I think at the end of the day, it's a really visual product. And that does a lot of the legwork for us, which is nice. What I've mostly gone with is the brand reinforcement of the upper funnel, just so that people have a chance of remembering Beach House art, and then when they get hit with another one later, hopefully reinforcing that. So the idea being that what I'm really looking to do is funnel people down the brand route.
Yeah. Also, so we were just discussing actually yesterday about this conversation because one of the things that's worked really well is we had old UGC that was sort of working, and what you've done is you've reworked it. So I think that's a really good maybe bit thing to talk about is the UGC that we had, you've improved it loads. So the ROAS on that UGC has gone up. I mean, it's averaging, I think it's like 5.7.
Yeah.
And that's because of the tweaks you've made. So you've seen that there's potential in that creative that we already had, and you've made it way better.
Yeah.
I think you've done that sort of across the board on a lot of things, and it's a collaborative process of kind of, we know our brand and we can be protective over it, but what you guys do is sort of take that and actually make it commercial.
And I think by the very nature of what we do, we're creative people. So we're selling something that goes on people's walls. So we know kind of how the art needs to look, how the product needs to look, and in what sort of environment it's going to best look.
Yeah.
And we do produce a lot of that creative ourselves. So I think that's something that we've learned along the process, is that is something that we kind of control quite a lot, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But maybe that, I know brands can be protective. But,
Everything we built, the strategy, the funnel, the creative, was designed to create consistency. And it worked. Month by month, the numbers improved, and before long, Beach House Arts hit their best ever revenue month. So you'll remember earlier when I said I had those first conversations with Sarah and Sam, and they had said, look, we want to grow by 40%. And I thought, that's going some in the current climate. That might be a bit tricky to do, but we'll certainly give it our best shot, and we'll look at the data, we'll make those efficiencies, and we'll see how we can achieve that. Well, skip forward the best part of a year. They're up 40%. Which is quite something. It's something we're really proud of, and we're regular emails back and forth with the client, and they have reported that they've had several months this year that have been their best performing months. March 2025, for example, has been, as a business, their best performing month ever. And when we compare that to previous years, the COVID years for a lot of businesses in the home and garden space, that is really saying something.
Well, so we've had our 2 best months ever, and they're consistently on sort of going up, so that's great. And year over year, I think we're up over 50%, so that's great.
And I think it's again comes down to the consistency. We would absolutely sort of, especially on the Meta side, it was up and down like crazy.
Yeah.
And from week to week, and it just felt quite a sort of wasn't.
Yeah, it's nice to not worry
stable.
And look into the account and go, actually, it's stable, but it's improving. And every month we can kind of go, what budget can we put in? Because we can look at those sorts of things.
Yeah, so we're really at that stage. We feel that, and we've been quite reserved in it, and I think you rightly so. I think other people we've worked with in the past were like, yes, put more budget into it, let's just go for it, and we're like, well, it could just crash again, so we don't know. And you guys are a little bit more like, no, we need to hit this in order for us to want to then have more budget. So we're just getting to that stage now where we feel that more budget, more creative, and there's a real sort of strategic plan again around that and being able to achieve it?
Results-wise for Beach House Art, specifically paid social and Meta, we have seen a very strong increase year on year, 50% increase in purchases and a 23% increase in revenue. That's Meta alone, that's not them overall as a business. So we've been able to achieve that through the structure, the well thought out campaign structure, aligning those messages in the right way, and as a result of that we've seen an increase in their brand presence and essentially bringing in more profitable traffic at the top of the funnel. Whilst that may have remained sort of static from a ROAS perspective, where we've seen the results really amplifies through the retargeting campaigns. These guys, it's a considered purchase. So it's really important for us that we have a very strong retargeting strategy, and for that alone we're kind of on the sort of 7, 8, 9s in terms of ROAS. So yeah, it's allowed us, since working with them with all of our testing, our campaign restructure, it allows us to kind of really understand where the wins are and where the losers are, so we can optimize efficiently, but also then looking at their target audience and their different segments. We've structured it in such a way that we can then do testing within there, and that's how you kind of really get to move the needle on Meta ads.
I moved the product feed out to classic shopping. One of the things I needed to do was be able to focus on different products in different ways. Take maps, for example. They really struggle. They've got an interesting seasonality to them that's wildly different from the normal imagery. So Performance Max in particular was struggling with those, firing too much traffic at them at the wrong times just because it had received a signal. So manually controlling that setup in classic shopping was really key, and that's brought CPCs down. I moved brand away from an automated bid strategy. Its CPCs were too high, frankly, that you shouldn't need to be paying that much for your own brand in a zero to low competitive world. So I deliberately reduced those. And of course, demand gen has very low CPCs, but basically every campaign type has lower CPCs year on year, just because part of the optimization process is why pay more when you shouldn't have to.
But what's made this campaign truly successful is the partnership behind it. That collaboration, that back and forth, it's what makes everything click. The guys at Beach House Art encapsulate everything we love about the clients that we work with. Why? They're owner operators, they get it, and they love what they do, and we love what we do, and that is where it just works. When you are working with someone who genuinely has such a passion for their product, their service, what they do and who they do it for, that mirrors who we are and what we're about and how we like to work and how we approach what we do, and that's where it just works. And that's evident in the relationship, the way that we are bouncing ideas off one another, the way we're able to grow their business, and that frankness, that earnestness, that transparency that we have back and forth in terms of the calls we'll have, the communications we'll have. You know, we know first and foremost, almost immediately, right, this is working, this isn't working, this is good, this is not good, this is what we need to do next, here's the ideas. And the guys at Beach House are really open to us challenging them and then working with them, but at the same time being able to listen to them and their feedback, and they know their customer best. And so when you get that back and forth, it just worked really, really well.
My favourite part about working on Beach House Art is I love interiors and wall art personally. So that's been really nice to be a part of the account and watch it grow and see it evolve since we took it on. Also, just working really closely with those guys on their brand story, that's been evolving for them as a business. So it's been really, it's been exciting and a pleasure to kind of work closely with them to align Meta and social with all of the other great stuff that they're doing, because these guys, you know, they're doing organic social, they're doing search, they're doing PR, they're doing email.
It's incredibly collaborative. I describe it as like a co-destiny partnership where we're both pulling in exactly the same direction to achieve the same goals. Quite
often you'll work with people and they'll gatekeep all that content and to have this kind of relationship where we're all working towards the same goal, which is the success of our business, which in turn is, the success of your business and everybody who works within these businesses. It's just a really nice way, like a very collaborative approach to, let's share our ideas, our content, our experience, so that we can kind of make the most of everything all the efforts that we're putting into it.
So there you have it. That is Beach House Art's story so far. This is one that is going to run and run, and we just love working with them. It's such good fun. So look, I hope you've enjoyed this story. If you would like to create your own home and garden story in collaboration with Evergreen, then get in touch. You can reach out via our website, via social media, even send a carrier pigeon. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to work on your business and create a story that takes your business to where you want it to be. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.